What's up, Gator Nation? What's up, Rolling with Carlos family? Today we're going to react to the National Signing Day press conference that Coach Jon Sumrall and the coordinators had with the media in Gainesville 2 days ago. And I'll give you my opinion and my analysis from some of the comments. I'll be stopping on some of the comments and then going from there. I hope you like this content, and I appreciate the entire support, and I appreciate everybody that's been leaving messages as we continue to grow this Rolling with Carlos family, Gator Nation. I appreciate it, and eventually, I promise you guys, I'll be giving back to the community once I'm at a level where I'll give you guys back correctly. Everybody that's going to be in the Rolling with Carlos family, I guarantee this show and these episodes will get better and better, and I'll get guests. Like I told you before, I'm working on getting 2027 recruits on the show, or 2028 recruits. I already have 2 penciled in for the summer. I'm trying to get one of them to come earlier than the summer and see if we can do a second show with him during the summer. And I'm working on more. I'm trying to see if I can get current active players to come on the show. All right, guys, let's start with the National Signing Day / pre-spring press conference from Jon Sumrall and our 2 coordinators, Buster Faulkner and Brad White. Now, first, we're going to hear from Jon Sumrall. Keep in mind, I'll be stopping the video and giving you my thoughts.
I'll be here to cover, I guess, what used to be signing day. It's not really signing day anymore. That's kind of gone and passed. Today is sort of maybe roster finalization day to some degree. We kind of know who's on our team, and especially now that there's no second portal window, which, I'm probably in the minority there. I'd be okay with the second portal window being a first-year head coach, because I think it gives you a chance to maybe assess who you are through the spring and maybe recalibrate if you've got some gaps within your roster. But like where we're at in a lot of ways, don't really know where we're at in a lot of ways too. We added 50 new players, 30 transfers, 20 high school guys to the roster, so 50 total guys that are putting on, gear for workouts here that have never really done anything here. And then you have, I believe it's 62 returners. So I think we're at 112 right now, if I'm not mistaken. So roughly a half of a team that's brand new. But so today's really not very active like it used to be. But it's been very active because we had a 6 a.m. team workout. So been around our guys a good bit, as much as you can be. The January recruiting period was really out and about a lot within the state of Florida primarily initially, and then out of state to see some priority targets at the very end for myself, but spent the majority of my time here in the state of Florida because we're going to start everything at home, and then have been able to last Wednesday and last Friday be around our team through our morning workouts, and then all week this week it's been really fun. I like recruiting. I love coaching. All right, so recruiting is I enjoy it. I think it's the lifeline of your program. But to me, I live for coaching. That's what I'm passionate about. And so it's fun getting around our guys and helping them understand how we're going to help them hopefully improve, grow, develop, and maximize who they can become. But with that, I will open up to questions, and I'm sure y'all got plenty. So let it rip.
Returns on Rusty and what he's doing with the strength program so far. Just how are you seeing the players embrace just him as the new strength coach?
Yeah, I think, I'm a firm believer that the culture of your program is established and reinforced in the weight room and in the training room for that matter. Tough teams win. Tough people win in this game. That's what you're creating in the weight room. It's about clearly getting bigger, faster, stronger, but it's also about some shared sacrifice. That's why we had a 6 a.m. run this morning. It's about, building confidence. It's about details, accountability. All those things are what wins. And so Rusty's pivotal to what we do. I
like that word that he said, that it's about the details and it's about accountability.
I'm very
I love that.
what he does and how he does
accountability
it.
builds
Great staff.
winning programs.
One of the things Rusty and I've kidded around about a little bit is our resourcing here is different. The last place we shared a weight room with like 6 or 7 other sports. I'm not having to book the weight room around sailing now. That's kind of fun. But there's some stuff there that, man, Witt is a special human. He served our country. He was a Green Beret. He became a Green Beret at the age of, I think, 33. But I don't know many people that have an interest in becoming a Green Beret at the age of 23. And so I think he's uniquely wired to help build a football team, and he's all about sacrifice and serving and developing. And so I just
he's talking about the strength and conditioning coach, by the way, guys.
Very consistent. I think our guys can feel the approach already. I think they're liking it. They're gonna move weight down there. I mean, I lifted yesterday with the offensive group, and it's fun seeing the guys' energy in that room right now. I think that's, it's really fun to watch and it's cool to see.
When did you develop that bond with them? When did you meet him? How'd you come across?
Rusty, yeah. So that's a good question. I coached against him a couple times. He was at Louisiana Lafayette with Mark Hudspeth, and I was the assistant head coach, special teams coordinator, and linebackers coach at Troy, and we played him. We were in the same conference. Then when I was at Ole Miss, he was Cliff Kingsbury's head strength coach at Texas Tech. And then after Texas Tech, Witt went to Army and worked for Jeff Monken, who's a dear friend of mine. He was the head strength coach at Troy. He'd been on the job for about 18 months when I took the head job at Troy, and I fully intended on firing him. Like, he was not being retained. And I did my homework, and I'm like, okay, maybe this could work. I did more homework, and me and him had a bunch of one-on-one meetings. And I'm like, okay, this guy's probably a part of the solution here, not the problem. And now we're like brothers. Like, he's very, very close to me. I have a lot of confidence in him. We can usually, like this morning on our workout, I can usually look at him and say like 2 words, and he knows exactly what I'm thinking, and vice versa. He can look at me and sometimes just like, say a couple words, and it's like that country song, and you say it best when you say nothing at all. That's me and Will. We don't say anything. We just look at each other like, I got it. Like, I can pick up what he's feeling, and we're very aligned. But yeah, so I didn't really ever work with him until I was the head coach at Troy, and I came this close to letting him go, and then I pivoted and kept him, and I probably wouldn't be the head coach of Florida if it wasn't for Rusty Witt, I can tell you that.
We're going to talk to him in a couple days, but just where did the idea for the gauntlet come from for him, and what goes into that, and maybe some of the goals you're looking for?
It's sort of an Army deal, like Army West Point, not like United States military Army fully, but the Army West Point football deal. That's kind of Coach Monken, and Witt was there for that and saw that and experienced that, and so that's where that really was created or established. We've made it our own and maybe made some modifications to it through the years, but that's where that was really founded, is at Army.
The process of hiring Buster, how did you go about that in terms of recommendations, or was it personal experiences, or what kind of attracted to you for him to be the offensive coordinator?
Yeah, same. Had not worked with him. I had coached against him. Buster and I had coached against each other when we were in the Sun Belt. He was at Arkansas State. My first stint at Troy as an assistant. He was there as the offensive coordinator. Had crossed paths professionally and just as people. And we actually, Buster and I we vacation the same beach every summer, so I see him most summers around the 4th of July. But had followed his career, had kept in great touch. We talked a lot, at different points of the years, this last several years. Actually considered hiring him when I took the job at Troy before I hired Coach Craddock, and then followed what he had done. I think what makes Buster unique, and I think great coaches do this, is you have to be adaptable. So I think you look at his background or his past, and more of a spread, air raid, if you want to call it Mike Leachish type of offensive structure and system. Then at Georgia was a part of more pro style with Todd Monken when he was coaching the quarterbacks there. And then when he went to Georgia Tech, had to evolve again with Haynes, more of a running quarterback who could throw it, but it was very much a running quarterback, and had to evolve again. And so I think anytime, from a defensive perspective, which is what my background is, when you evaluate offensive coordinators, you're looking for people who can make the scheme fit the people. It's everything's player driven. And so I think you've seen Buster evolve and adapt to, okay, who's my quarterback and what's our O-line do well, and then who are the skill people we want to distribute the football to. And so that's sort of how that went. When I, in full disclosure, my first couple of conversations with Buster about maybe being on my staff happened before I was head coach of Florida. Right? It was like, hey, if one of these happens one day, like, what do you think? Maybe. And but we've got a good relationship, and it's nice for Buster too to have Coach Craddock on staff because Joe's been with me, so there's some familiarity where maybe if Buster has a question, I'm not right in the room, he can look over to his immediate right and go, hey Joe, what's Coach think here? How's he see this probably?
Skill players, could you take us through the process of landing Eric Singleton? Obviously a bit unique going into the draft and then transferring, and also just what he brings to the table.
Yeah. So Eric's first offer in high school was Troy University, and I was head football coach. All right. Then he hit some track times that spring that were like electric in the 100, and his recruitment picked up, and he ended up going to Georgia Tech, and he played for Trent McKnight as his position coach and Buster as the coordinator. And then he left there and transferred to Auburn, where he played, and Marcus Davis was his position coach. So we had the luxury of having a lot of people on staff that already knew him. I knew him from high school. Buster and Trent knew him from Georgia Tech, and Marcus knew him from Auburn. Early in the process, we knew we wanted to retain VB3 and Dallas. Those were priorities for us. We wanted to maybe try to add one more potential big play threat on the perimeter, along with retaining the other guys outside of VB3 and Dallas I mentioned. But we felt like let's go get another guy that maybe has top-end juice. And so he declared for the draft, and we're like, well, that's not happening. So, and then when we got some rumblings back from some people. He had been invited to the Senior Bowl. Drew Fabianich, who runs the Senior Bowl, is a friend of a lot of ours on staff. And Drew and I communicated. He's like, hey, Eric may go back to college. Just want to give you a heads up. And when I heard that, I was like, if he does go back to college, you need to be ready. And so he decided to return, entered the portal, came down to us and a couple other schools. I think familiarity helped. There's anytime you can eliminate some of the variables or unknowns, it makes the decision-making process easier. And so I think his familiarity with the staff helped. And so that was huge. And then what does he add? I think top-end speed. I mean, he's an Olympic fast type runner. Like, he can run. Like, I think we're working on some change direction stuff with him. I think it's going to help him elevate his game, but he can take the top off of coverage, and he's a guy that you get the ball in his hands and see, can a guy make a tackle in space first? It's hard.
Building off of that, how crucial was Buster to the retention efforts of your offensive players?
Yeah, anytime those guys want to know what's the scheme going to look like, how am I going to get coached, how am I going to get developed? So it's pivotal. I think I talk a lot about, like, as the head coach, my job is to cast the vision of what the whole program's going to look like. But that comes to life in the locker room, not in my office. Okay? Well, offensively, it's the offensive coordinator's job to cast the vision for what the system's going to look like and how we're going to build this thing. And I think going back to Buster's adaptability and versatility, I think that helps because he's able to show guys, hey, I've done things a lot of different ways and I've built it around who the players are. And then I think secondly, I think Buster, when you spend time around him, you find out he's real, he's authentic, he's genuine. He's a detailed coach. He's passionate. He's not, like I say, he's knowledgeable. He's fiery. He's got a little edge about him. And so I think guys feel that and they want to play around that and they want to be exposed to that.
What are some of the benefits of having two wide receivers coaches on staff? How much do you think that can help the position?
Yeah, it's how I structured things where I was last year. Doesn't mean it's necessarily the right thing to do all the time, but it's something I've kind of fallen in love with, that model. There's a couple of things we do that maybe are unique and different, okay? And so this has kind of become more normal to where you maybe in a position group have two, what I would consider like real coaches or top-end coaches that are in that room. Why? Well, one of them, like in any formation, like say we're in an offensive formation that's 11 personnel where we have 3 receivers, or occasionally we're in 10 personnel where you have 4 receivers. Well, that's a lot for one coach to look at and go, coach, 2 guys on the left, 2 guys on the right, and have to see big picture of that whole field. Now, I'm not saying we're going to play every snap in 4 wides. We will play some, but not all. Like we're going to figure out who our best people are and get them on the field. we will evolve with who our players are. And so if we've got 7 great tight ends and 2 good receivers, we're going to play at more 12 personnel. If we've got 8 great receivers and 2 good tight ends, we're going to play at more 11 and 10. We're going to constantly figure out who are our best people and get them on the field. But I think you can't. My least favorite thing about watching a football practice is when somebody takes a rep and they're not getting coached. I hate it. I just want guys to get coached all the time. And so when you have – and then I think you also – those are the quote-unquote full-time guys, and you've got the support of analysts with, Decker and other guys in that room that are going to add value to Chad. Lucas has been helpful in recruiting, but he's also got receiver knowledge. And so the way we're structured in college football now is more like the NFL than ever, where there is no limit on who can coach anymore, right? So like 5 years ago, it was like, all right, are you one of the 10 coaches and GAs or are you not? And if you're not, who's a coach now? Everybody. Like if you walk on our practice field and you're not coaching, then why are you there? So like, unless you're there just as a visitor. And so I like having 2 receiver coaches that can make our guys better. It allows us to split some individual drills up, and so they can really be honed in on certain details that need to be taught to a position.
Can you walk us through the decision to retain Coach Chapman, kind of what factors went into that?
Yeah, so I had a relationship with Gerald. When I took the job at Tulane, he originally went with Coach Fritz to Houston for a couple days, and he called me and asked, would I allow him to come back? I said, let me sleep on it. I allowed him to come back. 5 days later, I think, the University of Florida called him and asked, would he come be their D-line coach? And I told him, hey, I'll go pack your office for you, bro. Like, that's the one you leave for, right? So, I wasn't mad when he left. It was one of those conversations. I'm like, yeah, man, let's go. You need to take the Florida D-line job. Like, why wouldn't you? And so when I took the job, that was somebody I had in mind for retaining. And anytime you walk in new, there may have been a couple other people, I'm not going to get into details, that you may think you are or you aren't going to retain, and that changes based upon conversations you have. Gerald was one I thought I would retain on the front end that I did retain because I've got history with him. I think also the D-line group respects him, likes being coached by him. I think he's a good relationship builder. I also think he's a really good football coach. And I think highly of him, and I'm excited he's still here. It's been fun partnering with him and watching him coach our guys already a little bit through just kind of the off-season stuff we're doing.
Big picture, when you look around college athletics, you got a lot of eligibility challenges and things. Do you think maybe it's a matter of time before that happens in football, where somebody who went pro comes back, and do you have to open yourself up to the possibility of that might happen and maybe create a space for that?
I wasn't planning on sharing this today, but we're going to file a temporary restraining order and see if Tim Tebow can play short yardage and goal line, all right, quarterback. So I don't know what the hell is going on with all that. Like, I don't understand it. I'm not smart to figure it out. I'm not going to make any statements that's going to be bulletin board other than Tebow probably here, because I'm not smart enough to understand all this legal stuff. To me, you're either in college or you're pro. Which one are you? I don't know. But I don't understand all of it. Like, we've gotten to where it's like, hey, you can appeal for a JUCO year, a COVID year, a 6th year, a 9th year. How many years? I mean, the model has been 5 years to play 4. The conversation around some people with 5 for 5, I don't think short yardage and goal line litigation is what it sounds like to me. I don't know all that stuff. I don't understand all of it. We're going to coach who they let us coach and recruit who they let us recruit. But the problem is I think that's such a moving target that you don't know who's allowed to play. I mean, and the rule may change tonight or tomorrow or whatever. And so I don't know. But, yeah, we'll see if Tebow gets his years I want back.
And then now that you've gone through it, what would you think an ideal calendar should look like from a college football standpoint?
I would love for us to move the season up a week or two, like week 0. I think it's asinine that I get it, it's all for TV and all that money, but the college football championship game next year, I believe, is January 24th. That's absurd to me. That means the midpoint of the football season, if you play in that game's like mid to late November, okay? The other part, we could talk for an hour on this, right? So there's some parts to this too, like we moved up the high school signing date to early December. Well, we did that to protect the high school kids from losing their spots to transfers. But then right after we did that, then what do we do? Then we moved the transfer portal window back. So it's like, well, then why we move the high school signing day from the middle of December to the beginning? So it's like we fix a problem and we change the other part of it, and it's like it just seems a little bit scattered. I do think, there's still this thing like called school, right? Like these guys have to go to class, or allegedly. And so the academic calendar in the football season is really not matched like it used to, which I think for us archaic football coaches and how we think is kind of a little bit messy and a little unclean. But I think move the season up. I think start the playoffs earlier, make it match a little bit more closer to the old January 1st national championship game. Maybe not the first, maybe it's the fourth or whatever, but I think that would be awesome. I would say this, like having been in the SEC head coaches text, the one thing I think that the SEC head coaches feel like as a whole, and probably unanimous on this, is like when I wasn't in this room when the 9-game conference schedule got talked about, I was not coaching in this league at that time. I think they all felt like, hey, we're going to 9 and we're going to expand the playoff to 16. And I think a lot of those guys feel, I wasn't in there, so I don't necessarily have this feeling, but I see why they have this feeling. Feel like they got burned because it's like, all right, now we're playing 9 conference games, a 10th Power 4 game, and we're not expanding the playoff, and we play in arguably the toughest league game in, game out. I'm not saying other leagues don't have great teams, but so I would say there's a lot of things around the calendar, playoff model that need to be evaluated still.
Could you have signing day back to today?
I actually don't think so, because so many, every one of our high school signees was mid-year. I just think now that we've moved the portal window to the beginning of January, we could do it like December the 16th, 17th, 18th, whatever that Wednesday is that falls there, we could move it back. So then now, like just having walked through this, I oversaw a signing class at Tulane and simultaneously tried to help be involved with overseeing a signing class at Florida at the same time. Now, if it wasn't for Katie Decker, previously Katie Turner around here, we would have not signed anybody. If it wasn't for Savannah Bailey and our Gator Maid program, because I asked all the parents and recruits, like, what made you choose Florida? That's probably the coolest thing about this signing day press conference, if you will, is like we lost 2 commitments, okay, 2, with a coaching change. That has nothing to do with me. That has everything to do with Florida and the other people that were involved in those young men choosing Florida. And so the University of Florida is a special place in every way possible. And I think you compound that with the Katies and the Savannahs and the people that were a part of the recruiting process. When I Zoomed and talked on the phone with all of the committed families and prospects, they all were like, man, Gator Maid is awesome. Katie has been awesome. Academics support here in our Hawkins Center, like big time, okay? So they all voiced, why did you choose Florida? And then their last question was like, hey, what's football going to look? I'm like, we're going to win. Like, so that part was real. But I do think the sign day stuff, I wouldn't be opposed to, now that the transfer portal's moved back, why not maybe move the December sign day just back to where it was? That makes a ton of sense. So then now when you have a coaching change the beginning of December, a kid's not like those kids, they signed knowing me for 48 hours basically, like interpersonally. That's a lot of faith, man. That's for what you're going to put your future in.
Once you signed those high school guys and then you figured out who was leaving, what did you sense were the biggest needs roster-wise that you wanted to hit in the portal, and how do you feel like you guys did there?
Yeah, there was some that I think we answered more resoundingly than others. I still don't. I'm not fully comfortable fully assessing our roster, right? Because I've been with them for a month-ish. I still am not. I would always take more depth on the line of scrimmages, the offensive and defensive line. I would like to have maybe gotten a couple more always. So that would be one place I would start with. Like, probably could have added another piece or two on the D line in particular for numbers standpoint. I did feel like, when you go to the portal, you're trying to answer maybe where you have a hole or a gap or a void. And I felt like for us, sometimes, man, it may be a frontline starter you're looking for at a certain spot. Sometimes it's a guy to compete for a job. And so I can't fully say I know exactly where we are in regards to that. Like I think we know, but it's such a calculated risk when you're doing that. And then too, the other component that people don't realize is like there's a lot of guys in the portal I'd love to add, but we do have some funds that are not like endless. Like there's a cap for us, at least at Florida. I don't know what everybody else's numbers look like, but we couldn't just say, hey, I like that player, let's go pay him X amount of dollars. You have to make the math work. And so there's some players we didn't go pursue because when you found out what it was going to cost, it's like, well, we're going to be over. Like, and not just a little over, but like, and so you can't just keep adding all top end of the roster players, maybe from a value standpoint on the financial side.
And then the retention piece, you've been at two schools where your roster got rated in the portal. What was it like to be on the other end of that and be able to keep your top players?
It was more fun than losing everybody. Last year at Tulane, we started the season and we had our left tackle and left guard that were starters back. We had a D lineman, a linebacker, and a safety, so 5 total. And I'm like, I don't know how we're going to win 7 games, like much less what we did. So I think I'm comfortable in uncertain situations, like where some people are probably like, how do you do this? I'm like, it'll be fine. Just coach. It'll work out. Just coach the guys. There will be a sign that gets put up in my office pretty soon. It'll say nothing but coach the team. Like, that's all I'm really worried about is coach the team. And so we're going to lose players at times, even in Florida. There's guys that left that I would love for them to have stayed, but they didn't feel like it was maybe the right fit or they needed to change the scenery or whatever. And it does feel nice to at least have some resourcing to go be competitive, to retain guys, and to, in the open market, maybe go acquire guys or add guys. How you ask any coach, I think they tell you how much is enough. There's never enough. You always want more. I feel better with more good players.
Do you feel there needs to be a salary cap and enforceable contracts for players nowadays? I mean, the game's changed so much. Used to be your scholarship was your contract, but it's changed.
Yeah, I mean, are we going to become the NFL and you're going to have collective bargaining and employment status? That's a whole different set of issues. I don't know what's enforced right now. So, like, I know there's been a hot topic the last couple of weeks of, like, somebody tampered with this guy or this guy. Yeah, no kidding, because nothing gets done. So, like, who cares? Just, like, if you want to know, is there tampering? Yeah, everybody's tampered. Like, every player on our team got tampered with. They all did. 100% of them have been tampered with. I don't even lose my mind about it because I'm like, yeah, it's just what happens. And the transfer portal, I know there's dates around it. It's always open. It's always open. So, I mean, anybody that's like freaking out, like, I can't believe they tampered. Like, well, until there's any penalties for it, and like, what's going to stop people from doing it? I mean, I'm not doing it, okay? But there's always like the back channel communication of, hey, this guy may leave via an agent or a high school coach or whatever. So it's like, there's no real, I don't feel like there's a whole lot that really gets enforced.
One of the ways to actually bring about enforcement, though, have a legitimate contract, A, B, C, and D?
Yeah, we do. We have contracts with guys on their rev share and their NIL deals and all that stuff, but I just don't know the enforcement side. I still think we're so much in the early stages of this that whole enterprise is still really very unsettled.
How was that when you were a player? Like, would you have outlasted Darian Mensah? Like, would he have been stuck on the Kentucky roster and you could have left for another job?
If I'd have been the coach at Kentucky, I'm confused. And Darian Mensah played there.
If you were coaching him 20 years ago, would you have left before he could have?
Yeah, without him transferring down. I'm actually for the portal. Like, I'm not against, I like transfer portal. I like NIL. I like rev share. I like all that stuff. Like, I think it's great our players get paid. Like, I'm for all that. I love the portal. Love it. I'm like I said, I'm one of the few coaches that's like, hey, I'd be cool with the second portal window still happening. Most of the guys are like, no, that's terrible. I'm like, well, I'd like to go through spring ball and go, hey, we're not good enough here. I want to add another player, right? But I don't get to do that. So I would have outlasted Darian if I was coaching him, yeah. But he ran away because he got a big bag, and I'm not even mad about that. You know what I mean? I'm happy for Darian. Talk to Darian. I probably could get in trouble with this. He calls me every now and then. Like, we're still close. So.
Following off the spring, can't add a player after that with no portal. There was a couple cases the last couple of years where players just unenrolled from the university and then just enrolled elsewhere. Some could say that involves some tampering as well. But do you anticipate, what do you think of that? And do you anticipate that kind of being closed as a loophole in a sense with no spring portal?
I don't think so. I don't think it'll get closed because there's still the student status. We were the beneficiary of that with Jake Retzlaff at Tulane last year. Like, that was a pretty significant addition for us in late July. So you can sit there and whine and complain about the way the rules are. You can just embrace them and try to adapt and make them work the best for you. I don't think that any of that's going to change because you can still withdraw. Say I'm making an academic decision, and we all know it's not really that academic probably, but I don't think anything's going to change on that probably.
Adejo?
You say it Emmanuel. That's how you say it. Emmanuel.
I got the pronunciation he sent to me, and I got it wrong. But, what jumps out about him? We all saw the picture on Twitter. He looks like he's 315 with like 5% body fat.
Yeah, so he's 6'6", 305 pounds, and his body fat is under 10, I believe. I looked at the numbers. He is a special-looking dude. I came off the road late one night, and I was getting a quick lift in the weight room. It was like almost 9 o'clock, and he's out there by himself doing pass rush drills, and he's got his shirt off. I'm like, man, that guy's got a chance to be special. He's gifted. He's a great kid, awesome family. In the recruiting process on him, there were several other high-profile programs involved. I think the family component kind of went out there. Like, I think mom and dad felt comfortable. We did a Zoom with them. And I don't know that anybody else did the Zoom with them. They're in Manchester, England, Nigerian descent, but live in England. And we did a Zoom with them, kind of crazy hours we're trying to make it work to where we could all be on the Zoom. And but he's got a chance. He's very raw and young as a player. It's not like he's been playing an exceptionally long time. He's still a very young player, new player to the game, has great physical giftedness and traits. And I think he's very passionate about learning, and he's a hard worker. I'm excited to see what he can do.
When you look at this transfer portal class all along, overall, Georgia Tech players, Penn State players, Kentucky players, connections with your staff. Was that a little bit by design, and do you think that could translate on the field in terms of, familiarity with the coaches and so forth?
Yeah, I think there's always something to be said about familiarity. Like in any situation, player to coach, coach to player. A lot of times when guys go in a portal and there's some knowns, going back to earlier, like when there's less variables at play, I think you have a better chance of getting a guy. Georgia Tech guys, several of them wanted to follow Buster, that crew that came with Buster, and then obviously the couple of the Penn State O-linemen wanted to follow Phil. I think that says a lot about them too. I didn't bring a heavy number of Tulane guys. I told those guys that was sort of probably going to be the likelihood. I told them all, I'm not going to outbid to get you. Like, we brought our kicker and our punter from Tulane. So I think when you have some knowns, though, you like bringing guys that you may know.
Building off what you said about Emmanuel, is there any other guys specifically that have stood out to you in this past month about workouts?
Transfer guys? Eric Singleton has stood out. Bailey Stockton is an extreme competitor. They've all flashed in certain ways, but Bailey Stockton, he's a complete competitor. Like, in our morning workouts right now, he does not want to lose. He likes competing. I'd be remiss to not say, but like several of the linemen look good to me. All four of the O-linemen, I think, have stood out. Emmanuel, you mentioned. Cam Dooley's got great length and can run. One that's probably been a pleasant surprise is Kanye Clark, UCLA DB. He's been electric in our running stuff right now and movement stuff. I feel good about all of them we've added to this point. Nobody's done anything where I'm like, man, why did we do that? But we hadn't put pads on yet either. Freshman-wise, there's several guys. This Carr, he's from Ocala, but went to IMG, the offensive lineman. He's got a maturity about him that's very impressive. Several of the guys, we'll see.
John, spring ball's coming up. What are you looking to accomplish in spring?
Just learn how we operate schematically within all three phases, individual player development, and compete. It's not real complicated. Like, we got to learn what to do, learn how to do it, and then improve individually.
Decision to bring in Aaron Philo as really your main quarterback, how much of that was just your trust in Buster Faulkner and his confidence in Aaron Philo?
Yeah, Buster's very confident in Philo and his readiness to be a high-level player. And so that made me more confident because he saw him every day for the last couple of years. So that was a huge part of that. If Buster hadn't been with him, I probably would have had more questions. But, when a guy's been around somebody that long and seen it since a younger age, you feel better about it. And then I would also say, too, I think it also is probably an endorsement of how I feel about Trammell. I think Trammell's got a really high ceiling too. So I'm excited about, and it's not just down to those two guys yet. My first year at Tulane, Darian Mensah was the third quarterback until 2 weeks before the first game. So we're going to compete. Everybody is going to get what they earn. There is no starting quarterback yet.
What are you? How involved are you there? I mean, I know you've talked about Urban and that relationship. I know the game's changed a lot, but his teams, it was I think 17 block kicks on those two national title teams combined. How much do you involve yourself in that and emphasize that?
Yeah, I've got a background as a special teams coordinator when I was an assistant coach, so that part is still a passion of mine. Jonathan Galante will run our kicking game stuff. I'm involved in all of it. I don't put any play calls in the game, but all the play calls that go in the game, I know exactly what we're doing. So I'm not you call whatever you want. We ain't doing that. But I also very rarely, occasionally I interject and go, hey, I want to see this. Special teams, probably a decent amount. Defense here and there. Offensively, more conceptually, what I'd really do with the offense is I probably look at what the defense is doing and give them information I think that can be helpful about how we can attack them. But in the kicking game, I'm involved. I'm going to be in every special teams meeting. At practice, I'm probably more engaged to the practice component of special teams than I am anything in regards to my focus, because I think when your head coach and your whole staff, you'll see a staff coach special teams too. If you're not the offensive line, defensive line coach, or one of the coordinators on special teams, it'll be all hands on deck at practice. Everybody will be involved in the drill, because I think that shows our team, hey, this is important. And if all the coaches are involved, it feels important. That's why I go in the weight room a lot, because when I'm in the weight room a lot, I think our players go, man, it must be important to be in the weight room and be strong. If the head coach isn't involved in the kicking game, I think it diminishes what those guys think the kicking game can do for your individual opportunities in this game, but also your team success. And so I'm very involved.
You're in transfer portal scouting. Have you had a lot of time to really assess the signing class itself from what they did in high school?
Yeah, so I crash course studied them right when I took the job. I tried to watch a little bit of all of them's tape immediately, just so I at least had some familiarity. The nice thing is 100% of our signees are mid-year, so I've seen them the last few weeks. But initially, it was very much speed dating, if you will, where it was watch a few minutes of highlights, do a FaceTime with all of them, get to know who they are interpersonally, and then figure out just kind of what they were about.
This is your third head coaching job, so obviously third brand new staff.
Yep.
How do you get a new staff to buy into everything and then translate that to all these new players, particularly with a culture that's constantly changing because of the portal?
Yeah, you have our building wired or something? Because that's what we've been doing the last 2 days. So we talked about it again this morning as a staff after our workout when we staff met at 8:30 or 8:15. We spent the last couple of days really being detailed and strategic about making sure there's alignment, an understanding of the standards. I'm huge on like your role and your job description and responsibility being very clear. I hate ambiguity. And so each person has things they're responsible for, but we're all responsible for being great teammates first. And so we all have to be bought in. Now, that doesn't mean just blindly trust whatever I say. I ask them all the time, like, challenge me. If you've got great ideas or feedback, bring it up. I haven't arrived. Nobody has. And so I think you're constantly trying to get better. I told our staff when we started this process most recently, when we got off the road to kind of do some alignment calibration work, I just talked to them about, what's unique and challenging for me is my first head job at Troy had a staff of like 18 people, right? And so I was everybody's direct line of report. Then I went to Tulane, and the staff size was roughly double. And then I walked in here, and I'm like, there are a million people, all right? And that doesn't really work with me. I don't need it to be small, but it was a little bit maybe too robust for my liking, because I think when you get too big, are you doing enough work? Are you bored? Like, I want to stay busy. I don't want people around the building like twiddling their thumbs trying to figure out, like, what do I do now? Well, if you have to think about what I do now, you probably don't have enough on your plate. Like, because I don't have any time to go, well, what should I do right now? So I want our guys everybody in the building to be busy and occupied and working. But I think cohesion is so important. There's a quote by G.K. Chesterton: "The true soldier doesn't fight for what's across from him, but he fights for what's behind him." I want us to be connected and care about each other and fight for each other and bring it every day and have each other's back. We're going to be in a foxhole at times. It ain't always going to be good. We might, I hate to break it to you, I'm undefeated right now. We might lose a game here. But when it goes sideways, do you flinch? Are you so outcome driven that you don't weather that storm? We're going to weather storms here. And we're going to do it because we're aligned and we got each other's back. Yeah.
What have you seen from Evan Pryor and just the running back room overall?
Yeah, Evan Pryor can roll, man. He's got great speed, short area quickness. I think he adds a little bit different dimension. From the running back room, obviously, I think it has to start with Jaden. Physicality, toughness, strong in the weight room, has a little bit of an edge to him. I've challenged him, hey, just because you're known now, don't lose your edge. You have to keep doing what's made you you. If you get a little bit complacent, then you get soft, and then you get off the path of what's made you special. And so that group, it'll be interesting to see who steps up. I think we all have a decent pulse of who Jaden is. There's a lot of opportunity around him, though, and we need to see who elevates as we go through spring practice and see what that room's going to look like. Appreciate y'all. Thanks for being here.
All right, guys. We got a lot of candid answers by Coach Sumrall.
In my Legoland?
So let me go ahead and he sounds a lot like Urban Meyer, and I've been saying this since he got hired. He wants accountability. He wants to put players in the right spot. But he also understands that the transfer portal and NIL have changed things. But he's very candid and very open, which is very refreshing from the previous regime, where we got a lot of coach speak. No, Coach Sumrall gives you a direct answer. The kids are not wearing the Gator logo, as many of you may know, because he says that the kids have to earn it. So I like what I heard from Coach Sumrall in his introductory press conference, and now I like what I heard also. It's about earning and being accountable for your actions and competing as a team to build a good team to get and to continue to win. Also, Coach Sumrall, this is his third team, his third staff, and he's won in two places. So, but he reminds me a lot of Urban Meyer, which little secret. The next video you guys are going to like a lot, because it's a Gator legend speaking about Jon Sumrall and why he believes he will be successful at the University of Florida. Now let's go to the other part of the press conference, which is the offensive coordinator, Buster Faulkner, and the defensive coordinator, Brad White, speaking to the media. And then I'll give you my thoughts after they speak. This is Buster Faulkner.
Coaching him and observing him, just what made you believe that he was a guy who was capable of having success in the SEC and as a priority target you want to bring here?
Yeah, obviously I've had a chance to be around Aaron for 2 years every day at practice and really even before that, kind of recruited him since he was a 10th grader, and he was a guy that I always thought, had a chance to be a great college player. And you go back to, when he had his opportunity to play a lot at Tech. One of them was in the Miami game where he split time with Haynes, and Haynes couldn't throw the ball, so we kind of just put Aaron in to throw it, and he was one of the reasons we won that game. Third downs, red zone, he came in high pressure situations. Then you followed up the next week, and he played against NC State, and it was the same thing. He split time, and then took us on a game-winning drive as a true freshman, right? So when you're judging a quarterback, it's a lot of things that you look for, right? Obviously, when you're recruiting them, but when you get a chance to be around them and they're good on third downs and they're good in 2-minute situations, that's what you got to be able to play at an elite level. So, that's the few game experiences that he does have. And so, when he got this opportunity and, he reached out wanting to make the move, there was nothing guaranteed, right? And that's one thing that these guys that, did make the trip with me, they know there's nothing guaranteed. I'm all about competition. We're going to play the best players. So nothing was guaranteed to him, and he was still willing to make the move.
How instrumental was AJ, or Deli, I probably butchered that, just to his development the last couple of years, and how much can that continuity help him now that they're both here in Gainesville?
Yeah, AJ's a guy that I signed in 2000, I think it was 13, at Middle Tennessee. We spent a couple years together, and then, he transferred, and I got a job at Southern Miss and was able to hire him. Kind of gave him his first job, and then I spent a year there, and then I left, and he went on to be a coordinator at a junior college, and then when I got the Georgia Tech job, I had a chance to bring him along. So AJ's phenomenal. He's been with me, he knows me probably better than anybody in that building over there. So that was big. Obviously, he's had a chance to work with Aaron the last couple years, and he knows a lot about him. And the good thing is he'll be able to help, translate not just with Aaron, but with a lot of the other quarterbacks. And I think that's just as important as anything. We got a great room. Joe Craddock's going to coach the quarterbacks. AJ's going to help him. Steve Spurrier is also in that room. So I wanted to build a bunch of guys that are very football knowledge, that can bring a lot to the table, to be in that room on a day-to-day basis with those guys and bring them along. Because at the end of the day, our job is to develop, all of them. So I want a lot of good guys around them.
Opportunities. Why'd you want to come to Florida and team up with Jon?
Jon and I have known each other now probably going on 4 or 5 years. I think you can see his passion, his energy. He's a proven winner. And that's something that I was attracted to, right? Obviously, Florida's a great place and got a great tradition. And, I look forward to helping, restore what's gone on here in the past. And I really believe that we can do it. But just his leadership, and you guys have had a chance to be around him, but when he's in front of the team, it's different, right? And that's, something that I crave, right? I want to be around a guy that brings it every day, right? I like the fact that he's defensive-minded. I think you look across college football over the last 10 years, 12 years, and, there's 2 pretty good defensive-minded head coaches that have been in this league and won a lot of football games. And at the end of the day, I'm all about winning and how you win. So that was the, some of the reasons I wanted to work for him. And then, across the profession, he's known as one of the good guys. So it's been awesome so far. I look forward to it. And, we've talked about this for a few years now.
What are your early impressions of just the skill players that you got to work with on offense?
Excited. They're eager. Okay, we're fast. We've got some guys that have, coming back that have played a little bit of football, that played a little bit here. And then we were able to bring in, Eric Singleton, who obviously I've got a track record with, Bailey Stockton, Micah Mays, just to name a few that I think are going to add a lot of value to that room.
Valdosta's not too far up the road. Your Valdosta State background, what do you think makes that kind of a cradle for offensive coaches over the years?
There's a lot of great players in Valdosta, Georgia. That's one. It's a great place to recruit. Football means something down there, and obviously for the last going on probably 25 years, it's been a really successful program, And I think it goes back to location of players, right? And you got the same thing here. You know, we're in a great state with great football. Georgia's not too far from us. It's got great state, great football. It means a lot. And anytime you're at a place where it means something, right, that's the jobs you want to have. And that's what, you know, one of the reasons that I'm standing here before you.
Absorbing maybe from coaches even there and so forth, like how it, you know, translated to successful offensive coaches. I mean, going all the way back to, you know, the late Mike Leach.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I cut my teeth there and cut my teeth throwing the football in the air raid there. You're able to get good, you know, I played there and then was able to coach there. But, yeah, there's been a lot of great coaches there. You know, there's also been a lot of great defensive coaches there. Will Muschamp was there. He's one of the best defensive coaches I've ever been around in my life. And, you know, obviously he was here, and then, you know, Kirby Smart was there as well. So there's been a lot of good coaches there. Chris Hatcher's a guy I played for, has been a head coach, one of the most successful head coaches in all of college football, you know, maybe at a smaller level, but he can coach anywhere I've ever been. So, yeah, a lot of good coaches. Coaches can come from anywhere. It's about the work you put into it.
How do you learn to, like, adapt versus pigeonhole players? Adapt to your talent versus, like, force them into a system?
Well, all the coaches that I played for, they had to adapt to me, so that's probably some of it. You know, when I was in high school, I played for Cecil Flo as the head coach, and Robert Hill was the offensive coordinator, and we were one of the, you know, better teams in the state of Georgia at the time. But that, you know, as I was growing up, it wasn't that way, and so they built a program, and it was built on, you know, we joke about it, but the mentality was 3 yards, 4 yards, and just keep the chains moving. Well, we won a lot of games doing that, and I played quarterback for them. So, you know, and went on to win a championship there, and then went to Valdosta State, and it was totally opposite. You know, we're throwing the ball around. You know, Dusty Bonner was before me, and he could throw it down the field. He was a great player. And then when I became the quarterback, I couldn't throw it down the field, so we threw it sideways a bunch and still had a lot of success. So, you know, that's probably where it started. You know, just my background of high school and winning, running the football, controlling the game, and then getting to Valdosta, and it's completely different. But we won doing it, you know, both ways. So, but it really probably started as a coach when I got to Middle Tennessee after a Murray State run that we had that was really successful. We got there and wasn't very good the first year, and then kind of had to reel in the passing game and adapt and kind of start running the football, and that was in 2012. And so that's really where it started, and was able to merge with a guy by the name of Glenn Ellerby, who's now the offensive line coach at Tennessee, and he taught me a lot about, you know, running the football. So that's where the merge kind of started, and then, you know, as you know, each stop's been a little bit different personnel, and you know, like I said earlier, I'm all about winning and what's it take to win, right? So we're going to adapt to our guys. We're going to throw a lot at them here early, as much as we can, see where that kind of falls, and I've got a pretty good idea of the foundation that we're going to do and what we're going to be, but we're going to do what they're really good at and try to do it a bunch of different ways.
That you think you'll need to take into spring camp to continue evaluating, or are you able to, like, judge that based on what you've seen on their tape in the past? Like, how does it kind of all come together?
Yeah, great question. A little bit of both, right? Like I said, over the last couple of weeks, we've been able to lay a foundation, like what we think we're going to be, install our terminology, right? Some of the base run concepts, some of the base pass concepts, right? And then have the ability to go in one direction or the other, whether it's more counter schemes or whether it's more zone schemes or whether it's more vertical passing game or whether it's more horizontal passing game, right? The foundation's in, okay, or will be in, and then we will go from there. And so, yeah, that started now, and that'll continue to go through spring practice. It'll go into the summer, and hopefully about 2 weeks out before the first game, we'll have a really good idea of who we are and what we're going to be, and then, you know, go from there.
Are there any principles still in what you do today that you picked up from Valdosta State?
Yeah, and that goes back to the versatility of the offense and kind of what he just asked. Yes, there is, okay, and especially in a lot of the way we do things, more so with the way we practice and the way we go about getting reps. I'm a true believer that these kids learn by doing, right, and getting a bunch of reps, and we've got a lot of reps to go. We're a young football team. We're going to be young at quarterback, pretty inexperienced, you know, up front. So between now and the time we kick off in September, we've got to get a ton of reps and build continuity find out who can play for us. And those are all air raid principles. Everybody thinks, just the ball was in the air raid, that part is true, right? But the repetitions that went into getting them there is what, to me, was second to none. The way the practice is organized, the way the practice is structured, and was able to take a lot of those principles, right, and do them in different facets of what we do offensively.
At Arkansas State in 2017, they're the number 5 passing offense in the country. You guys are also top 10 in scoring offense and number 12 in total offense. How are you guys so good that year?
Well, that was year 3 of the program. That was the 3rd year the quarterback had been in the offense. Real similar to with Haynes King this past year. That was the 3rd year that a lot of those guys have been in the offense. So, and you're able to evolve, and the reps and all those things take over. The culture's taken over. So yeah, again, it's just about the repetitions and how we go about getting them. And like between now and September, and college football is different now than it was then, right? Like now you got 12 months, okay, and this thing could turn over again, and you guys see it all the time. So it's how do we do it better than everybody we play over the next 8 months getting ready for September?
And then John said that you guys are going to have times where you play 4 wide receivers. That's music to the ears of a lot of Florida fans. How much do you want to be able to push the field vertically with those guys?
I want to be able to push the field vertically, horizontally, over the middle, every which way we can, right? Get them involved in the run game, whatever it takes. The thing about receivers is usually they're the fastest guys on the team. So, and you can kind of look at what we've done in the past is how do we get them the ball in space so they can go make plays? And that's looked different at a bunch of different stops for me. Over the last couple of years, we played around the strengths of, the quarterback that we had, but that didn't mean the receivers weren't heavily involved in the game plan, right? You can look at, when Eric was there, he had 22 carries for us for almost 200 yards. Was an extremely explosive player. So we're always going to get those guys involved because they're the guys that you can either throw short and run long or maybe pitch it to them and get an explosive play. So they're going to be a part of what we do.
Your experience working under Kirby Smart, being part of a national championship program, what did you take from that, in your coaching career, do you think?
The consistency of every single day. You better bring it every day. What's important today is really the only thing that matters. The thing that I took probably the most from him is, really the mentality, toughness, physical. Those things still win in college football. And then going about reps, right? Like how you go about, developing your program. You're not just coaching the 1s, but you got to be coaching the 3s and the 4s and the young guys the same way, and making sure that you're spending time with them because it is a long season, right? And the guy may not play at all in the first game, and then he's a starter by game 10, either injuries or he's eventually beat somebody out. And the only way you're going to know that is with a bunch of reps, developing your roster and spending time with the whole team. And I think that's a trait of his that I thought was really, really good, and I think that's why his program is what it is.
Going back to your relationship with Jon Sumrall, what clicked between the two of you guys? He was talking about, like, you were going to follow him wherever he went, whether it was Auburn, Florida. He had a feeling that you were going to. So that means, gives me an idea that you guys hit it off pretty well and got really tight at the beach house or whatever. What was it that, that clicked there?
I think, like I said, the winning is one thing, from afar. That was big. The story goes is we, the last couple weeks leading into, the last game of the season, obviously these jobs and stuff have been open for a while, and, everybody's got a pretty good idea what's going on. You can't get anything by you guys anymore. So, we had talked about several places, and basically it just got to the point where I was like, look, when the season ends, you just call me and tell me where we're going. I'm good, right? And obviously this was one of those. And so, yeah, we've got a chance to know each other. He's a great family man, first and foremost, and that's attracted, that was very attractive to me. But it started, like I said, probably 4 years ago, and then we would run into each other every year at the beach, right? And I'm fired up. Like, it's probably the most excited I've been in a long time. It's a similar situation to the one I went into at Georgia Tech a few years ago. And like I said a few minutes ago, nowadays in college football, I believe you can turn it faster than you could 3 or 4 years ago, or 5 or 6 years ago. But we want to build a consistent winner, right? But we want to win now and build for the future. So that's something that he's proven that he can do it in a few years, and I've been a part of ones that you're able to build, for 3 or 4 years. So I look forward to it.
Florida's tradition. You grew up in Georgia when Spurrier was down here. Do style points and exciting offense matter, you think, to bring that here? Someone I was talking to yesterday said you'd like to score 100 points and leave teams in the dust.
Yeah, absolutely. We all would like that. It's.
I'm saying that about you specifically.
I am extremely competitive, and style points, yes, right. But at the end of the day, it's about winning, right? I grew up and loved Spurrier, right? Just his attitude, the way he went about it. He would talk trash a little bit along the way, and so that was always fun to watch. As a kid, he was an outside the box thinker. He was ahead of his time, right? Like always adjusting, and I thought that was, something that I take a great deal of pride in is trying to stay ahead of the game. Nowadays in football, there's so much film. There's iPads on the sidelines. There's great coaches. There's big staffs, right? They find tendencies so I'm always trying to find ways to stay ahead of that. When the playing field's even, right, you got to find the cutting edge. So I'm always looking for the cutting edge. What can we do better and stay ahead of it? And was able to take some of that also from, Todd Monken, who just got hired as the Cleveland Browns head coach. He was great at that. And so the 3 years that I was with him, kind of reaffirmed a lot of my beliefs.
A lot of opportunities, coach talent, but I mean, Jaden Ball, Dallas Wilson, BB3, are you licking your chops looking at this roster and what you can do with them? Yeah, no, it's I actually recruited Jaden a lot in high school and was trying to keep him close to home, and we lost out. But, it's a talented roster. Jaden's got probably the most experience and the most production. VB had a great, freshman year. Dallas was kind of in and out with injuries. They're super talented, but there's, a lot of other guys that make up the team, right? And it's going to take more than just those guys. I can assure you that. It's a long season. It's the SEC. It's a physical league. We're going to need a lot of players here to do the things that we want to do as an offense, right? So, and we were able to add some pieces to come in and compete. And then at the end of the day, like Coach said, we're going to play the best players and to give this place a chance to win games every Saturday afternoon.
What was it like reconnecting with Jaden Ball and his family during that in-home visit and selling him and his dad on, what you could do for them in your offense?
Yeah, no, well, it was easy to sell. It was easy to show them what we can do, because you had a lot of film of him, and then was basically we were able to take a lot of the concepts that we've done in the past with running backs and kind of blend them, and then also, took some NFL players that we think that he's a lot alike and say, hey, look, here's the plan, here's the vision, and here's how you're going to fit in this offense, and here's how we want to take you to the next level, right? Not just the NFL, but how you can change Florida, right? And so that was important. It was important to him too. This day and age, look, it is what it is. There's guys that are bouncing around. We brought guys in, but he has a chance to truly leave a legacy and have a place where he can always call home. And I think that was a selling point for us, but it was also, that meant something to him. I've been a part of teams where, we won the national championship, and you look up and the guy that caught one of the biggest passes in school history, didn't finish his career there. Well, where does he call home? I don't know. But I know Jaden Ball is going to be able to call this place his home, and I think that was important for him, and it was important for us.
Who were some of the NFL players you showed him?
He's Christian McCaffrey. Reminds me a lot of him. There's some Saquon Barkley in there. But one thing that I think that we can hopefully tap into is Jaden has a great feel for the game, not just from the backfield, but can do a lot of other things. He's got great hands, really good route runner. So we want to be able to take his game to the next level. And if he wants to play for a long time, right, he's going to have to be able to do those things. It's not just going to be carrying the ball.
You lost an All-American center here, and you brought in Harrison Moore. Talk about how important it was to bring in an experienced center that you already have been working with.
Well, we'd been here for a couple weeks, and randomly got a call from Harrison. So when we had that opportunity, I can just tell you that he would probably be very similar to the last guy that was here. He's extremely tough, overachiever, was a tight end his junior year at about 240 pounds, was committed to Vandy, and we were able to get him there late, but he's a throwback. Tough guy, going to play through everything, coachable. So it was good for us, but again, he's also going to have to come in here and compete and earn everything that's out there. But we're excited for him, excited he's here, and he's a mentality type guy. One more.
You talked about depth, and you brought in Bailey Stockton. You obviously saw something in him at Georgia Tech. He mentioned that you were a big part of why he ended up there. What does he bring to the squad? Obviously not the shiny addition, but what does he bring to a team like Florida?
Toughness, right? If you're gonna win, you better be tough, and that's one thing that kid's got. He got a big heart. I think if you start asking the players around here, they'll be able to tell you about him. But he's extremely tough. He's extremely smart and highly competitive, and you win with guys like that. So his production was good for us at the last place, and he was also backing up the second leading receiver in Georgia Tech history. So we're excited that he's here. And like I said, you ask the guys in that locker room, and they'll be able to tell you about Bailey. Appreciate it. Thank y'all.
All right, guys, we got Florida defensive coordinator Brad White. We're going to go right to questions.
You obviously worked with Jon at Kentucky, but what attracted you to coming to Florida with him?
Yeah, that one took about 30 seconds. You know, when he called and said, "Hey, would you be interested?" It would have taken about 5 seconds, but then I had to call my boss, and so I called my wife, said, you know, we had the opportunity, and she said, "You said yes, right?" And so that was the only thing that it took that long. Obviously, working with Coach, you understand what he's about. You understand his mentality. He's going to do things the right way. The way he's going to treat his staff, the way he's going to treat the players, the accountability within the program is going to be right. And at the end of the day, winners win. And he's been a head coach for 4 years, and he's been to 4 conference championships. The resume speaks for itself. And so you talk about being able to get matched up, paired up with Coach, and then the tradition of Florida, it was a no-brainer.
What was that like working with him at Kentucky? I mean, what was he like back then? How have you seen him evolve since becoming a head coach?
We had a lot of fun, you know. And again, we were a part of a lot of really, you know, special moments, sort of in that program's sort of history. But we're really looking forward to making those memories and those moments here. And so, you know, professionally, you know, I think the world of him in terms of how he handled. You know, his players, you know, his mentality, you know, he obviously you can tell there's an aggression and force in which he does things, and that filters through the player, that filters through the culture, you know, that the linebacker culture that he had. Like there was going to be no question that those dudes were going to show up on game day and play at a really, really high level. You know, arguably, you know, that 19 to 21, the linebackers that played in that sort of set were sort of the standard, you know, in terms of, hey, this is what we're trying to get done, and their knowledge, their understanding, their play style, their aggression, the way they approach the game in the classroom, on the field, all of it. And so knowing that he'd have that influence throughout the entire team, just like he had in his room through the defense, you know, and to be able to sort of have that offense, defense, special teams, like there's a reason. It's no secret, you know, why his teams win.
Where's your philosophy kind of rooted? What is it? And where does it kind of trace it to?
Yeah, I think there's a growth in all of that, right? Like, I've been really, really lucky and fortunate to have gone through, sort of a different journey in terms of, hey, I played and started my coaching career sort of in one system. And then, and so I got really comfortable
Coach
with that, both as a player
Brad
and a
White said
GA.
it took him 5
I took
seconds
the
to,
1
really
year
5
sort of
minutes, he says,
detour, my first
but it really took him 5
stop
seconds
was at
as
Murray
soon
State,
as
and we were a
Coach
true,
Sumrall made the call.
Gary
But then he had to call his wife,
4-2-5,
and his
blitz
wife
aggressive.
said that
9 months there, man. I had a.
Did you already say yes? Correct.
Staff got let go,
and she said, "Let's
so
move."
went out to the Air Force Academy and was
But now he's
back
talking
in
about
a system
he
that
wants aggressive
was run at
players.
Wake Forest. So I was very comfortable, very confident. And then you go to the NFL, and it's a completely different deal. And it's a completely different system, terminology. Coach Pagano had just come from being the defense coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens, so we were blending the Baltimore Ravens system with Greg Minuski's system out there in San Diego. Again, sort of a 3-4 under defense.
Now they asked him about his defensive philosophy. Where's it rooted from?
Yeah, I think coverage schemes and structures. So I really grew as a coach there, and my understanding of like how we're going to attack things more from, hey, I was a linebacker, it was a front perspective from a second and first level. There I learned how to work from the back forward. So we're gonna start with the coverage piece. We're gonna make sure that we've got the routes covered up that we need to get covered up, and then we're gonna figure out how to get aggressive from there.
This will be your 6th season, I believe, working with Chris Collins. He was your co-defense coordinator last year. Just the growth you've seen out of him, and you guys working in tandem. How did that work last year, and how do you envision it working this year?
Yeah, Coach Collins does an unbelievable job, in terms of teaching progression. His guys are always really well prepared. He does a great job in the meeting. He connects with them, and then he connects on a personal level. Starts from the recruitment process. He does an unbelievable job of not just recruiting the player, but the entire family, so that they understand the expectations, of that young man when they step into the building. And so everybody wants a young man to step in and then be good right away. And when it doesn't happen, that's why you see the rise of the portal. It is. Everybody wants to hit the quick eject button. But if you're authentic through the recruiting process, when those pit moments hit, you're able to push through them, and not just as a player, but the whole family's involved, and be like, no, I understand why we chose that place. So he does a great job connecting in that regard. He understands, we've worked together long enough that he understands what I'm trying to get done in certain play calls. And so it's really a good dynamic in terms of a back and forth. We'll push each other, in terms of, hey, we're not afraid to challenge each other. If I would just sit at the front of the table and say, hey, listen, this is the only way we're doing it, it's going to be this or that, you're going to have very little success. Now, at the end of the day, you can go round and round in circles, and be sitting in a meeting room for a long time. Somebody's got to pound the gavel. That's, what Coach put me in charge of, But we're going to be flexible in terms of what we do and how we do it.
How familiar were you with Daylon Wilkins in 2024 when he was on the staff at Kentucky? And he's, I think, going to be the youngest position coach in the SEC this season. Just what have you seen at his rise recently, and what made you believe that you could see him coaching the star position?
Work ethic. So it was funny. So, Coach Collins, you mentioned Coach Collins and I, we both, we were looking for, a GA there at Kentucky. And man, there was 3 guys that we were interviewing. One that had some really high level experience, one that was a position coach already in college at a lower level, but wanted to try to make that jump to the SEC. And day one, and it was interesting. You do the Zooms with all 3 of them, and I got off the phone and I said, I know this was probably going to be the 3rd on the list, but we both left that Zoom saying, man, this is the guy. Like, the energy, the work ethic, he'll be the first one in the building. He'll beat everybody. He does it the right way. He communicates with the kids really well. He connects, but not on a, hey, we're a friend level. Like, it's a, hey, I'm a coach from a very young age. It's, hey, I'm the coach, right? Player relationship. And no, so he's going to be a really good one in this profession.
Your relationship with Cam Dooley, how much did that kind of play into him transferring here, and what can he potentially bring?
Coach Collins.
He spoke about Coach
I
Collins,
think honestly, relationships matter more than everything. You know, and so when he decided to go in and he had to make choices that were best for him, I think his comfort level with the system, with us as coaches here, I think that resonated. And obviously, I know how, he'll fit into the scheme. The big thing with any player is, like, we need to see growth, right? And it's he played as a true freshman, primarily on special teams. Last year, took a much bigger role as a true sophomore. And the expectation is now it's time to take that big leap as a junior. I really like how that safety room is shaped up. There's going to be a lot of competition. The workouts have been really competitive. And so much, especially defensively, right, is once you put pads on. I mean, like, we're in our even when you just put helmets on, you're running around, hey, how do guys look? Like, good from a movement standpoint, but defensive football is about full pads. Can you tackle in space? Can you pin a ball carrier? Can you track the ball in the air? Can you rush the passer? Like, all of that happens in full pads. So there's sort of cursory level evaluations that are made right now. Like, what I'm really evaluating right now is mentality, attitude. How much do they compete? Obviously you want to see movement skills. But I've had a lot of guys that don't do great in drill work, that when they put pads on and they have that mentality about them, they overcome those deficiencies. There's guys, like, you want to over-recruit them. You want to put that guy that, like, he's super tall and long and fluid, like, put him in the game, and he won't let him get in the game because it's a mentality. And so I'm looking for guys that have that mentality. I know we're going to have plenty of talent at Florida, but the greatest talent on defense is that dude that's just got that dog in him.
How much does Miles Graham kind of embody that mentality, and how much are you leaning on him as a leader?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's one, and there's several on defense, but, like, that's one that you look at it and you're like, okay, the mentality matches the athleticism too, and that's why he makes so much. He makes so many plays. He flashes on film. When you come in and you're trying to watch all the games, obviously I knew way more about Florida's offense than I knew about Florida's defense. So now you're hitting it in the flip side, right? And you're trying to watch and say, okay, who are the playmakers, who can play, who fits what we're going to do, who doesn't. And I mean, 5 just is all over the place, and in some really tough situations, in some tough matchups, in terms of, what was required of him. I think this scheme will give him a little bit more freedom to play downhill and aggressive. But that he's got that coverability. And so you can I can tick mark that and say, okay, good. I know, hey, if we need to play some man here or there, he's going to be in good shape
Your
for that.
philosophy on run defense, I mean, you guys did a pretty good job, as I recall, last November, kind of making Florida one-dimensional in that game in terms of, how you guys attacked it.
Yeah, I think that's a big difference. Now, some people would argue with you on this comment here, or with me. In the NFL, like, yes, like, even when I was with the Colts, like, on day one, there was, like, the pound the table, stop the run. And as we went through, you realized, hey, listen, like, you held a team to 50 yards rushing, but an NFL quarterback passed for 450 and 5 touchdowns. Like, you weren't winning that game, right? So yes, at every level of the game, you have to stop the run. But really at the NFL level, like if you can stop the pass, like you're going to win ball games on defense. All right? You're going to stop the pass, you're going to affect the passer, you're going to pass rush. In college football, it's the reverse. Like, you have to be able to stop the run. Like, you truly do. Like, that's not just a cliche to pound it about toughness. If a team can run the football, and in college they do it 1,000 different ways and out of 1,000 different formations that the NFL doesn't have to deal with. And so if you can't handle the run game, like, you're going to have a really, really difficult time winning ball games. And so that's where it's going to start. We're going to have to be smart in how we stop the run, but what we can't do is we can't commit everybody to the run game, because the pass game over the last 8 years, the evolution, of film that can be distributed across platforms, the rise and complexity of the pass game in college is skyrocketed. When I got back into college in 2018, it was very simplistic. And now you see it more mirrored to NFL-style routes, how they're trying to affect, safeties, how they're trying to affect eye discipline and, motion shifts. It's far more challenging. But at the end of the day, you still have to be able to stop the run. Now, if you can stop the run with some light boxes and cover up the pass, like, you're going to be in good shape.
On that note, can you just break down your 3-4 scheme a little bit and how you want to defend in the front seven?
Yeah, I will say this. We are a 3-4 team, no different than like the Indianapolis Colts were, quote, 3-4. It's way more 4 down than it is 3-4. Does that make sense? There's 3-4 under principles, right? Where we're going to set the 3 technique. You'll play with some 4 linebacker type looks. But a lot of 4-3 sort of principles where that boundary jack backer will be just essentially a D end. I think we've got guys up front, and we'll see in pads. From what I've seen from their mentality, like, we'll be able to play 4 down and jump into 3, and give multiple looks. I think that's part of the key these days, is that offenses are so well trained that if you give them a singular look, they understand where the leverage points are, they'll destroy you. But if you can move, where the bubble is, if you can move where the 3 technique is, and that's the beauty of, hey, playing some 3 down front, they don't know which way it's going to go. But make no mistake, we're going to get down and in some 4 down stuff and let those guys go.
Nickel star in your scheme based on what Florida ran in the past?
No, you know what? That's hard to tell. Like, it's kind of by personnel. I've had years where we've been primarily star. Last year, if you look at last year at Kentucky, we were primarily star, except for some big sets. There have been years in the past where had a really good Sam outside linebacker, and you get big and long, and you got a guy that's 235 pounds out there. Like, people are like, well, you can't match those. Yeah, I know we can't play man or match on a slot receiver, but guess what? That little dude has not felt the hands of a 235-pounder pounding on him running routes. So it kind of depends on who you have personnel, and adjust. And the more that we can be a defense that can go both ways, that's going to give more offenses trouble.
There was whispers about he didn't really see where he fit in your scheme. What was your role in bringing him back, and where do you envision him on your defenses?
Yeah, I think that was a collective effort by the staff, and I think so much about Jaden is that he's very thoughtful in everything he does. It's what makes him such a unique individual, a dynamic football player. Like, he doesn't just do it because everybody else does it. Like, he's going to have a process about how he goes his business, and I get it. There was a change in coaching staff, a change in system. It wasn't what he had initially signed up for, so I get it. Now you go expand and you look at your options. And I think when he looked at what we have to offer from a system standpoint and from a coaching standpoint and a development standpoint, I think the thing that we'll take great pride in as a defensive staff, and I know as a complete team, but I can only speak from our side of the ball. From a defensive staff, it's about development. You know, it doesn't matter how many stars you are, you come in from high school, if you leave the exact same level of player, you aren't stepping on the field on Sundays. So you have to push your envelope, you have to develop, you have to have the tools, and he felt that, and we have a blueprint, especially for edge rushers, of what that looks like. And I think when he saw that and we presented it to him, I can absolutely see myself doing that. And he's got a guy 90 minutes down the road that was in this system, that was the National Defensive Player of the Year, right, that just signed a second contract over there with the Jaguars and, you know, is doing just fine.
On the opposite side, what's the ceiling look like for Emmanuel? Obviously, that's a bit of a projection, right, just being his lack of football experience thus far.
Yeah, you know, I mean, obviously, everybody sees the physical stature, right? The beauty is right now is that there is no depth chart. Now, I think there are certain people, you know, that may get sort of the first crack at it, you know, the Miles Grahams that have been in here, the Jaden Woods, hey, when we call out first defense on the first practice, those guys are probably going to be running out. But it's a long way till there, and it's a long way till we kick off, you know, in the fall. And so I've told on my very first meeting with the guys, I said, listen, the reason I don't carry a pen around, I only carry pencils, because the guy can flip around and I can erase. And a guy can go from first team down to third team up to first, tick up slowly, tick down slowly, right? You've got to be accountable. You've got to be reliable. If I see guys turning things down on the field, like, you can't play in this defense if you got a shot to inflict some damage and you don't take it. We are going to play with our pads. And so, do I think Emmanuel has the tools to be a really good player? I do, but he's still very raw in his development process, and he's got, you know, ways to go. I think Coach Chapman will do an unbelievable job with him. You know, Coach does a great job from a technical aspect. He's also an unbelievable motivator. So I think everybody in that room is going to elevate.
6'6", 305 and can bend. That's not even Josh Allen isn't even close to that, you know. How rare is what he's got to work with?
Yeah, physical tool-wise, rare, right? And the other thing is he cares. Like, he puts in a lot of work. Like, he knows so much about being able to be developed is having self-awareness. Having self-awareness to understand that, hey, listen, I have not arrived. I am not where I want to be. I need to put in the time and the effort to go get what I hope I can get. And he has great self-awareness to understand, like, hey, I'm still very new to this game. Football it's not a Arnold Schwarzenegger's not going to walk in and just be a great football player. Now, you can look at his body and be like, whoa, look at the pecs on top of pecs. Like, but you have to have football instinct. You have to have accumulated reps. You have to understand, hey, what is a counter move when an offensive lineman sets me this way? And the thing that really attracted me to his tape, yes, the physical size, but the thing that I loved most was, one, that it was raw, so that there's plenty that we can pour in and develop. But two, there was an effort and strain. He would make some plays 25 yards downfield on a chase play. I'm like, okay, I can't teach that. Like, you've got to be wired. You have to have sort of an inherent nature of, I'm going to strain to finish. Then let us as football coaches coach out, you know, the rawness.
Where's the rubber snake? I thought you were going to throw it into the room and see how you're active.
Yeah, listen, I can't afford to fix all your laptops if you throw them off your laps. So, yeah, you know what? I just listen. Well, no, it's not a test. Trust me, if somebody threw a rubber, I would jump on a seat. Like, I can't stand snakes. It's like my biggest fear. But that's part of it. Is we work a lot in this building. And we demand a lot of the players. But within that work, within that journey, we've got to have fun. We have got to find joy in it. And so when I do it to lighten the mood, like, hey, every moment of every day doesn't have to be 4th and 1. Right? Like, we get into season, like, hey, there are going to be a lot of 4th and 1s and the tension. But, like, man, we're in a meeting room and guys are dialed in and that's good. Boom, you just got to take a little moment, like, oh, come on, coach. You know, and then you've got the guys that have, now it's not going to work nearly as well here because they're so accustomed. Like a frozen iguana or something, right? But we're going to be tight. Like, some people use the word and they just flippantly throw, hey man, we're family in here, da 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 da, and then they're in just for the football piece and then they're out the door. Like, that's not what this thing's going to be about. Like, they're going to come over to my house. They're going to go over their position coaches' houses. They're going to know my kid. Like, my 2 boys, I mean, they're obsessed. Like, over Christmas, like, they drew 5 different pictures, like, of Florida football players to have me hand out, like, when I got down there. Like that's who and they're going to come down next week for the first time, and that's all they can think about. And I said, hey guys, like, they're going to have a workout in the morning, and I thought my 8-year-old was going to fall out of his seat. Like, we're going to meet the player. I'm going to be, right? That's what this program is going to be about. Yeah, the winning is going to be the standard, but how we win is going to be just as important. People aren't going to hate their life walking in the building and then they walk out and like, yeah, I got a ring, but I didn't get anything else out of it. Like, they're going to walk out with a ring and be like, that was the best 4 years of my life until I get married and until I have a child and I hold that child, like, then that becomes the best thing. But they're going to enjoy their time with their teammates, with their coaches in this building, enjoy the process, learn how to love grinding. Like, that's right now, like, that's a piece. Like, some guys are still learning how to love to grind because there's some of it's not even like yet. Like, we're still just we're just grinding, right? But once you learn to embrace it, that's when you frickin' take off.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
I've read your offer.
So,
all right, guys, I like what Buster Faulkner and Coach Brad White spoke about. They spoke about their schemes. They spoke about mentality. They spoke about what they want to do. But they also spoke about accountability and creating a family atmosphere and making sure that the players buy in. Coach Brad White especially spoke about mentality, that he can't really tell who's going to be the starters until they're in pads. But the mentality, the players wanting to get after it is something big that he evaluates. And he spoke about Emmanuel, that Emmanuel has a motor, a non-stop motor. When he saw the intangible, yeah, he liked the size about Emmanuel, but he also liked the fact that he saw a play in his tape and he went 25 yards after a guy. So he likes players with non-stop motors. Guys, watch this whole video. I appreciate your support, and I'm still working on the summer series of interviewing recruits and possibly working on trying to get current Gator players in a little series. I'm trying to work on stuff, but I appreciate your support, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Like always, stay positive, stay on your grind, and go Gators. Peace.